welcome. My name's Vicki Haspels. I'm the Conscious Mystic, and welcome to Life Purpose Coaching. This is part of what I do and the services I provide, and I am a qualified SoulLife coach trained by Tony Riley. Now, this is a complement session to the weekly forecast, and using the energy of the cards that were pulled for the week starting May the 15th, 2023. I also did some extra scrying to see what elements were at play for this week, so we can take a deeper dive into how the cards are going to affect us, so that we can bring that information into the light and to start the healing process. Okay, so the first element we're looking at is the element of the being and how the information is being played out, or what's being most affected. And it's no surprises, because of the swords, that it is our psychological self that is being affected most this week. So therefore the swords represent the mind, and we begin the week with the mind. So the mind is the most prominent and needs the most attention, and it will also be asking for the most attention. And I'll show you how that is played out as we go along. So the sedimented belief, or the unconscious self, is filtering those thoughts through the emotional bruise of betrayal. This is an expression that is called an expression bruise, and this is a belief that has been sedimented into ourselves, into our soul selves, through conditioning in our early childhood, and oftentimes even from generations beforehand, past lives, generational trauma, and it is something that we learned at an early age. The bruise that we express is a survival technique. So the betrayal bruise often comes out as control, extreme control, because there is a lack of trust around things. Looking at the weekly forecast, the beginning of the week is definitely a lack of trust in ourselves. If we cannot control certain situations, we are going to explode, because it's that control that we think we are controlling everything. Now, the way that the expression bruise itself expresses itself is through like bursts of anger, where we try to control everything. We don't trust anything. You'll find that our personality, we try to dominate when we're expressing the betrayal bruise. There is, we expect others to adhere to our demands. We try to convince everybody at all costs. It doesn't matter, because we must be right. In other words, we're not trusting ourselves. So if we can bring as many people in as we can, now that's where the demands come in. We become aggressive and impatient, and we find it difficult to delegate, so we try to do everything ourselves. So if that's the expression of betrayal in the negative, let's have a look at in the positive. So once the bruise of betrayal, once our trust begins to heal, and the betrayal begins to lessen, and we are bringing it into our conscious selves, and we can recognize those sort of negative or adverse effects of our behavior, we then start to show positive aspects of it. In other words, we can use that bruise to work in our favor. We can recognize where we don't trust, then we can start to delegate. We can start to offer people to help us out, because the trust will start to we'll notice when we start to trust others. And when we start to trust others, of course, we're going to invite them into our world, because we'll trust that they can do. We don't have to micromanage anymore. We're able to delegate. The other thing that comes in, we have a great ability to manage many things at once. So in other words, our mind is free enough and uncluttered enough to be creative. And another way that we can express it in a positive way is we're able to make quick decisions, because again, our mind is clear. We're not always trying to control everything, and we're incredibly protective. So we'll take that control and trying to control others and turn that into a much more positive and much more compassionate form, and that is protection. In other words, we will do anything that we need to do to keep our loved ones safe. the reason that all of that is coming up to be healed is because we are feeling grief and loss. And when we look at the first card, like Monday's card and Tuesday's card, there is a requirement for us to let go of a situation because we are trying to control that situation, especially on Monday with the Eight of Swords. So when we let go of that situation, it leaves a hole and it leaves grief and loss, because once we let go and move through that and start to take care of ourselves, and we'll see that as the week goes on, then there will be a gap and a hole, and that hole is grief. And so we'll feel a deep sense of loss. So part of the process of bringing the unconscious into the conscious is allowing the process of grief to move through. Now, there is no time limit or no time frame on grief. Someone always said to me, the depth of our grief is equal to the depth of our love. And so therefore how we love is how we grieve. And there is a deep sense of loss around this week as we move out of a controlling situation that we are trying to control. We might even be trapped in something as well, and moving into that, having that sort of hole where we had something that we thought was making us feel special, and now we must fill that up with love and compassion. But first, it is important to grieve and acknowledge that loss, not cover it up with other things. And finally, I, as I said, did some scrying, and I asked the most beneficial healing that we can do to help us move through. Once we bring the unconscious into the conscious, bring it into the light and face it honestly for what it is, acknowledge it, and enable us to move it out, so that instead of it being right here, we can move it out to out here. The best healing that we can do with that is to connect to spirit. Now, I'm not talking about soul connection where we do a past life regression or anything like that at all. I'm talking about going beyond that into the spirit dimension, where we can basically let all of that go and experience ourselves in the soul sense. And also part of that was an affirmation. So I'm going to tack onto the end of this video, this little video here, an affirmation for the week. And when we come to Friday, I'm going to run through a connection to spirit meditation that we can do in conjunction with the affirmation, and that will help us because we'll have these couple of days to process our bruises, our emotional torment, our loss. It needs to come up to be faced, and then on Friday I will do the healing and connect us to spirit so that we can release it all back to the greater good and bring some relief to the process. Here's this week's affirmation. I trust and fully accept myself. I am worthy of happiness. This has been SoulLife Coaching, part of the life purpose coaching that I do. And I will see you on Friday for the healing. My name's Vicki Haspels. I'm the Conscious Mystic. Thank you very much. With love from me. Bye.